So first of all, we are going to take the switches, and between the three switches we are going to take, right? That is switch 1, switch 2, and over here we have switch 3. Okay, and this link we are going to make it as a trunk port. Okay, because of we are going to perform the VTP practical over here, and without trunk port the VTP we cannot configure. So before configuring the VTP, let's talk about what are the important things which is we have to configure, or which is we have to check before configuration of the VTP. That is VTP version should be same. If you are going to configure the VTP version on all the Cisco switches, so version should be always same, right? Then your VTP, then your VLAN information is going to propagate. Otherwise, they will not get it. Then after that, we have to configure VTP domain name. Domain name should be same. And after that, we have VTP password. Password would be also same. So, and then before configuration of the VTP, trunking should be enabled. Trunking should be enabled between switches. Okay, and then after that, we are going to configure the some VLANs, and that VLAN like we are going to configure 10 and 20 VLANs over here, right? So these two VLANs we are going to configure, and that VLAN information is going to propagate on all the Cisco switches. Okay, and this switch we are going to make this switch as a server switch, and all the switches would be in the client. Okay, this one is also client. Okay, so this is the configuration which is we are gonna to do on a Cisco packet tracer. So let me quickly open the Cisco packet tracer and let's perform the practical. Okay, so here are your switch, and you have to take the three switches over here. Let me take it and let me connect that. Now, first of all, we are going to configure the trunk port, right? So how you can configure the trunk port? Just look at first of all, what is your this link which is we have. So the link which is we have, that is fast Ethernet 0/1, right? So we are going to make these port as a trunk port. Okay. So how we can do that? Go in enable mode, go in the global configuration mode, and then go on that interface, that is fast Ethernet 0/1. Okay. Then type command switch port mode trunk. That's all. Okay. Let me show you the command which is I have used over here. These two commands. Okay, means you have to go on that interface, and then you have to say that this interface is now going to participate in a trunk. Okay, now let's perform on these switches as well. So the switch is we have middle of the switch, right? Go in the global configuration mode and then go on that interface, that is fast Ethernet 0/122, right? 0/120/2, right? So I use that command, range command over here, because of we have to make both the interfaces as a trunk port. So type over here switch port mode trunk. Okay, that's all. Now one more thing, let me do the no shutdown. One more thing also you have to check, like if you wanted to check my port is from the trunk or not. So the interface, you have to type the command do show interface is trunk. Okay. So now whatever the port that is I have formed the trunk. So this is the thing which is you will get it inside that. Okay. Now I have configured the trunk on this interface that is over here and on this interface as well that is over here, right? And the trunking mode is on as you can see. Okay. Now encapsulation, which encapsulation by default it uses the 802.1q, right? So guys, there is a question for you. How many types of encapsulation protocol that is we have in a trunking? Types of encapsulation. So guys, who is going to give the answer?
802.1 QC.
And
The ISL, that is inter-switch link.
right. So we have inter-switch link, and this inter-switch link is made for only and only for the Cisco devices. Okay. And this 802.1q is a open standard, is open standard protocol. Okay, means by default you always get the 802.1q everywhere because of this is the default mode of a encapsulation protocol on a Cisco switches, right? So this is that is why I did not assign any kind of things. If you want to do some changes regarding the encapsulation protocol, so you can also do that. Okay, means first of all you have to go on that interface. Let me show you how you can do that. Interface first is the net 0/1 switch port trunk encapsulation. I think that command is not working, but that is how you can do that, right? Means switch port trunk encapsulation and then encapsulation protocol it asks, right? Over here in a Cisco packet tracer, it is not supported, but if you try it in a GNS or any other simulators, so you will get that, right? So the command would be switch port trunk encapsulation ISL and .1q, then you will get the option. Okay. Now I have configured the trunk between that. Okay, means my trunking is formed. So what I'm going to do now, we are going to configure the VTP over here on all the Cisco switches. So let's do the configuration on first of all this switch. So first of all, let me show you the status of VTP. Do show VTP status, right? So status that is we have discussed from yesterday. By default, VTP mode that is you will get that is server. Okay. Now we have the CR number. So we will also talk about like what is the CR number when it increased and when you can just increase it, right? Now over here, the capability of the version which is we can use that is two version, that is one and two. It we have the three versions totally over here, right? But it support this device support only two version, that is version one and version two. Okay, so let's do the configuration of VTP domain name because of VTP domain name is not configured, right? And let me show you the password as well. Do show VTP password. So as you can see, the password of the VTP is not configured. Okay, so let's do the configuration. First of all, VTP mode because of the version it's already running, that is version 2. Okay, so we are not going to do any changes because of this server mode which is we want, so it's already running. and the version it's already running, which is we have. Okay, that is version 2, and the mode of the operated mode of the VTP, that is server. So simple, we are going to we are going to do VTP domain name. So suppose that domain name which is I used CCIE, right? And VTP password. Suppose that same password which is I have taken, right? Let me show you the VTP status. Now, see, the domain name would be CCIE, and let me show you the password. Do show VTP password. So the password is, which is I have configured, VTP password is CCIE. Okay. Now let's do the configuration on a different switch on this. Okay. And these two switches are in the client mode of VTP. Let me show you first of all the VTP configuration, the VTP status. So it's by default, it is in the server state, right? And the domain name, it's automatically it propagate, right? So we don't have to configure the domain name. Let me show you the password as well, because of it also propagate the password information as well with this neighbor VTP password. See, the password is not configured, but the domain name is going to exchange. So let's configure the password. That password which is I have configured CCIE. And now what we have to do? We have to change the mode of that, right? Because of this switch is going to perform as a client mode of VTP, right? So VTP mode, that is client. Okay, now let me show you the VTP status. VTP status. Now this is in the client state, and CR number is always remain 0, right? VTP domain name that it's running, but that is CCIE, and VTP version that is it running on that switch, that is 2. So let's do the same thing on the last switch as well. And I think we haven't done the trunking product configuration over here. Let me check that. Do show interfaces trunk. So let's do the trunking first of all. Go on that interface facet 100/0/1 switch port trunk mode trunk, right? So that you can see over here on trunking encapsulation is on, right? And the encapsulation protocol which is it running 802.1q. Okay. Now let's do the configuration of VTP over here. So let me show you first of all VTP status. VTP mode that is it running, that is server, and the version of VTP that is it running version 2. Okay, and the domain name it propagate that information. So we have to configure VTP password only, right? Password, and then VTP mode we have to change it, right? So VTP password, which is I have configured CCIE, and then VTP mode, that is we have client. Okay, show VTP status. Let me show you. Now this is in the client state, right? So all the VTP configuration is done from this side. So now what we are going to do, let me show you the VLAN table first of all on all the switches, because of we are going to configure the VLAN, right? So VLAN brief. So as you can see, there is no VLAN. These are the default VLAN which we have on our switches, right? Let me show you on the another switch as well. See, there is no VLAN. It's already previous VLAN which is we have. Okay, let me show you on that as well. Do show VLAN brief. So this is default VLAN. So now what we are going to do, this VTP is our VTP mode server, right? This is our server, and this is our client, and this is our also client. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to configure the VLANs, that is simultaneously we have the 20 VLANs over here, two VLANs, that is VLAN 10 and 20. Okay, so this is the VLAN which is we are going to configure on a server switch, and that VLAN information is automatically going to propagate on the other side of the client switches. Okay, let's do the configuration. So how you can configure the VLAN? Simple. Press the VLAN and VLAN name you can also give it. You can also define the VLAN name as well, such as I define the HR and do exit. Let me show you the VLAN table now. Previously, as you can see, there is no VLAN, right? Let me show you the VLAN number 10, that is HR, right? And now, previously, if I'm talking about the VTP information, so VTP configuration revision number is 0, right? It is 0. So let me show you now the VTP configuration and see over here the existing VLAN, that is 5. That is default VLAN which is we have. How? VLAN 1, VLAN 1002, 1003, 4 and 5. So we have by default VLAN, that is 5. That is we have defaults VLAN on the switches. Okay. Now let me show you, first of all, this is your VLAN, right? And now let me show you the VTP configuration on that. Show VTP status. Now configuration revision number is increases, existing VLAN is also increases, right? Now let's check that like this VLAN information is going to propagate on another switches or not, because of I configured the VLAN on this switch. Okay. Now let's check that VLAN is automatically configured on these client switches or not. So as you can see, here is the HR VLAN, right? Let me show you the VTP status as well. See, same thing you are also getting, right? That means our VTP is working properly. Now you can see this is your previous one. This is your previous VLAN. Are you getting any VLAN number 10 over here? No, right? So now let me show you that current VLAN information. Now here is the VLAN number 10. That is I have created as a HR name. Let me show you the VTP status as well. See, the same thing you are also getting on that. That means that our VLAN, which is I'm going to create it on this switch, that VLAN is automatically going to propagate. That information is automatically going to propagate on these switches, right? Now let me do one thing. Let me again create a different VLAN and let's check the CR number. Now let me just explain you when the CR number is going to increase, right? Because of previously it was 0, right? And when we create a VLAN and I give the name of that VLAN, then it increases, right? So let me explain when the CR number is increases. When CR number increases. So here are the few points, that is whenever any VLAN information is going to create, edit or any delete VLAN, right? If you create any VLAN, if you modify any VLAN, or if you delete any VLAN, so in this case, your CR number is going to increase simultaneously as a 1, right? By default, the CR number is 0. This is default. Okay. Now, here is a one more thing, that is whenever you change the version of VTP, then the CR number is going to increase, right? And the last one, that is we have VTP pruning. Okay, so these are the components that is we have, like whenever you do any modification in these statements, then your CR number is going to increase, right? Now here is a one more thing. Now I know that in your mind, like now it's a CR number is 2, right? So how you can just make it as a 0 CR number? How you can make it as a previous CR number that is 0? So how you can make it? Simple, change the mode of VTP, right? Simple, change the mode of VTP means suppose that previously it was in the server mode. Now you can change it into the transparent. When you can change the mode of that, then the CR number is automatically remain 0. So let me do that on the client switch. So I think then you will get the detailed information. Right now the CR number is 2, right? And the mode which is it running, that is client mode. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, we are going to change the mode of it, right? VTP mode, that is transparent. Now let me show you VTP status. So CR number is now 0, but the VLAN information is remain same, right? The VLAN information is remain same. So whenever you do any modification or anything in your VLAN table, then CR number is going to increase. But that's not gonna be happen on the transparent switch. Let me do one thing. Um, we just created the VLAN on a server switch, right? Now let's create the VLAN on transparent. Okay, and now before creating on the transparent switch, let's configure the VLAN on client switch. Like, does it takes or not? Because of on a client switch, we are not like this will not provide you the any kind of authority to create a VLAN on a client mode switch. So let's do that. Suppose that we are going to create VLAN number 30. So what you get? The error which is you are getting, VTP VLAN configuration not allowed when device is in client mode, right? So whenever you are in the client mode, VLAN configuration, VTP VLAN configuration is not allowed, right? Means you cannot configure any VLAN on a client switches. Now, can we able to do on a transparent switch? Yes, let me do that. Suppose that I create the VLAN number 30, right? Now let me show you the VLAN table, VLAN brief. Now the VLAN number 30 is there, right? But does this VLAN information is going to propagate on another switch? Let's check. This is not going to propagate. Let me show you the VTP, sorry, the VTP status. So VTP status is remain same. Let me show you the VLAN table as well. The VLAN table is remain same. Means whatever the VLAN you are creating on a transparent switch, that VLAN information is not going to propagate between the BTP mode of the switches, right? Means that VLAN is only for that switch, which is transparent. Okay, so this is the thing that is we have regarding VTP and all we have. Guys, do you have any doubt in that?
Sir, if we do not want the CR number to increase whatsoever, we have to use the transparent one.
See, yes, if you don't want to increase your CR number, so you can
Yes,
use
sir.
the transparent switch.
And sir, in the transparent, we still can modify the switches.
Yes, we can still modify the switches according to our requirement, but that
Yes.
VLAN information, suppose that this is now in the transparent.
So
And
it will not be transmitted, right?
yes, it is not going
Okay.
to transmit it that this VLAN information between that or between that, any kind of modes that
Okay.
is we have. Okay. So
Okay.
this is the use of VTP CR number and the mode of the VTP switches. Okay.
So are you going to, sir, are you going to upload it on YouTube?
Yes, right now.
Okay.